Well, here I go again, beginning another video. And this one is for the 24th of July. And the title is Signs of Real Change. There is truly an awakening that is sweeping the planet. I don't deny that. My skepticism relates to my personal role in being able to fulfill the vision I have had since my teenage years. The health issues I faced last year were an indication that my body has been compromised. Then, with the loss of my home, I felt betrayed. It left me in a position where I could not afford to survive economically in the world as it is. Feelings of desperation would overwhelm me. Nevertheless, I continue to explore, reading and listening to many who I believe are on the cutting edge of real changes in the human condition on Earth. Even though it is taking longer than I anticipated, I do see signs of a positive shift. I see the cabal being exposed, including the demonic influence. This, to me, is the biggest sign of real change, especially in conjunction with the exponential increase in people waking up. Last night, I attended my normal Friday night meeting, and every other week, well, I don't know if it's going to continue every other week, but we've been watching 9 hours of video by David Icke. I think it was recorded actually in London, although I'm not 100% positive of that. In any case, David Icke goes on for 9 hours, and we watched 2.5 hours a couple weeks ago, and 2.5 hours again last night. And I'm saying 2.5 hours, it's an approximation. The total amount of video is 9 hours. I believe that's what I was told. Anyway, David Icke has been on the cutting edge and a primary proponent of some of the changes that are occurring. And I agree with him on much of what he says. There's still some things that I'm not sure about. It's not that I disagree with him. I'm just simply not sure and not convinced yet of certain things. I'm not even going to go into that. I do want to say that David, his story in and of itself is pretty amazing. I mean, here's a man who was a sportscaster on BBC, and he was a soccer player, and they call it football over in Europe. I know that. To me, it's soccer. To most of the rest of the world, it's called football. Football to me is what they do in the United States, because that's how I was raised, and it's not right or wrong. It's just a different way of looking at things and naming things. But in any case, David, when he started out, he would set up the chairs and a few people would show up, but he didn't give up. He didn't give up. He hung in there, and now he draws packed houses in the largest stadiums around the world. People, that's what I mean, signs of real change. People are waking up. We're starting to pay attention to the inconsistencies of our current system and the lies that have penetrated it throughout our lifetime and going back not just centuries, but millennia. And this is very, very, very positive. I don't know, quite honestly, what role is going to be for me to play. Right now, as far as my health challenges, as I've said before, the only lingering issue that I have is my feet remain numb. Especially my right foot is really numb, and I have to be careful. Sometimes if I step wrong and don't watch where my feet are being placed, if I step on something that's slightly uneven, I almost fall over. My right foot is really, I can feel it. It's not that I've lost feeling, but there's significant numbness, and my left foot has numbness, but it's not as bad as the right foot. But all that aside, the issue again that drove me to the despair was when my home was taken. when my lawyer didn't show up in court, and I had to stand on my own against odds, and I wasn't even allowed to bring up anything before 2014, and the thing started in 2005, and so there's a whole bunch of stuff, including an admission by the bankruptcy court that my home was not in jeopardy, that they were not taking my home in the bankruptcy, that would remain mine. They took it anyway. They opened a new case after the bankruptcy. They opened a brand new case, and that was the 2014 case. And then the ambassador seemed to somehow, I don't know what role he played, but it seemed to be being held off. And of course, when I got sick, that was even before I got sick. When I got sick, it was delayed because they didn't do it while I was in the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. In any case, there are signs when I listen to David and when I read and then listen to some other people that are very encouraging. What's her name? The Eisenhower great-granddaughter. I forgot her first name, but she's fantastic, and some of the other people that I listen to put out some tremendously positive information. But going back to the crowds that David Icke draws, that is a huge sign of an awakening. I mean, people are paying attention. People are finally starting to get it, that the governments that we've known, the financial system that we've known, it's all fraud. It's all a con game. And we have been the victims of a con. We, human beings, have been the victims of a con. And there is an awakening happening. I keep saying it's not going to change unless God does something. Well, people are waking up. Now, I don't know. I'd like to see that happen peacefully. That's why I want divine intervention. I want to see the criminals taken out, handcuffed. If not literally, figuratively, I want them incapacitated so that they cannot interfere anymore with people waking up, so that the restrictions that they have imposed on humanity are removed, and we begin to open up into more of a freedom of discovery and a freedom of expression and a transformation of our consciousness, of our very being, the codons that have been turned off being turned back on, and a true spiritual awakening that reaches the masses and transforms human society. That's the goal. That's the heaven on earth that I seek. I don't seek an escape. I don't seek trying to meditate myself into oblivion where I don't recognize anything that's going on. Like I quiet the mind and I turn off all the thoughts. That's BS to me. I'm sorry. That's BS to me. I mean, I have times when I enter that space, but that's never the goal. The goal is the awakening. The goal is the integration of my higher and physical self, my higher self and my so-called lower self. If you use higher, you have to use lower, I guess. But one is not greater than the other. They're just simply expressions. And I'm trying to work through this the best I can. And I'm uplifted during the times that I see these signs of real change, but I'm challenged during these times when I feel like things are not going well and I don't see my way clear to actually being able to enjoy and experience some of the positive changes that have to take place politically, because that's part of the spiritual awakening to me. Anyway, these are things that I wanted to share with you today before I get started and I go to the Messianic Jewish synagogue a little bit later on. And anyway, that's it for now. Namaste.